Hey, that worked pretty well. The Committee of the Whole meeting is now convened, and we have two items tonight. First, the King County Solid Waste proposed fee increase. We have a presentation on that, and then about halfway through the meeting, we're going to take a break and go down to the court on the third floor and have a demonstration of their electronic court record system. So with that, why don't we go ahead and jump into item one, King County Solid Waste proposed fee increase.
Great.
Knight?
Good evening, President Corman, members of the committee. My name is Linda Knight. I'm the solid waste coordinator for the city, and tonight we have Meg Morehouse and Olivia Robinson from King County Solid Waste Division to talk to you about a proposed disposal fee increase.
Good evening. It's great to be down here in Renton. We are proposing the first solid waste rate increase in 4 years. Just to give you a sense of what the process is for the rate proposal, we have been discussing preliminary recommendations with our advisory committees on which Renton serves. We gave the final recommendations to the executive a few weeks ago, and we expect him to transmit it to our King County Council any day now. The council would deliberate over the rate proposal in the summer and into the end of September and hopefully adopt the proposal by December 26. That allows the cities, the haulers, the Washington Utilities Commission to have a 90-day advance notice of the change so that they can incorporate any changes into their own rate structures on January 1. So, by the numbers, what are we proposing? This is the first increase in 4 years. We currently have a basic rate that applies to everyone of $120.17 per ton. That's been in place since 2013. We're proposing that it go up to $140 per ton. That's the same that we projected it would be in 2017 in our last rate proposal. It's also in line with what other providers' fees are. It's higher than Snohomish counties, but lower than Pierce counties and City of Seattle. We looked at what does that tipping fee mean to the single-family curbside customer across the unincorporated areas in our 37 partner cities. Rate structures vary a bit between the cities, but on average, this increase would mean that your single-family curbside customer would pay about $1.06 more per month. That's about a 5% increase on a monthly bill of $20, which is about the mid-range for the bills in our system. We had scheduled a rate increase for 2015 and 16 and decided not to do that so that we could consider some issues about our longer-term future and also save the ratepayers some money. Had we increased the rates back then, we would have collected $22 million more than we eventually did in 2015 and 16. So what's that $140 going to? Well, the $120.17 is just sustaining our current services. And if you know our services, we have the only operational landfill in King County, the Cedar Hills landfill up near Maple Valley. We operate a transfer system with 8 stations and 2 drop boxes. We provide a number of waste prevention and recycling programs and assist cities in those programs. And of course, we have the support functions like human resources, accounting, all of the things that are needed to run a business.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Prince?
Hi. Thank
Hi.
you guys for coming tonight. So, quick question. So I noticed that the current fee has been in place since 2013, which is about 3 years.
Correct.
Do you anticipate that you'll be coming back to the ratepayers in 2019, or do you think this is going to last for a while?
Some of the feedback that we've been getting as we talk to different cities, our advisory committees, is that folks prefer to have smaller, more frequent increases instead of having things held steady for a long time and then have a larger jump that allows people to adjust more easily to the increase in rates. So we've built our rate path for 2019 and 20 to have another additional increase, but smaller than this one, so that we'll have a more gradual covering of our increased costs. Okay, so most of the increase is just to sustain what we're already doing today. We have 4 years' worth of inflationary increases in labor and other costs that we need to make up for. We have debt service that we need to pay. We're undergoing upgrades to our Factoria transfer station and starting a new South County station, selling bonds for those stations. We need to pay those. During the recession, we deferred some of our equipment replacement of trucks, compactors, and the other things already in use in our system, and we'd like to catch up on those deferred replacements and deferred maintenance on our facilities. Every rate period, we check our Cedar Hills Landfill Reserve Fund, which is where we pay for new development and meeting federal requirements for operating or maintaining the landfill 30 years post-closure. And so we're making sure that this rate puts the balances in that fund to the levels required by federal law. And we're looking at our ongoing maintenance requirements for 7 closed landfills and making sure we have the money needed to sustain maintenance of those.
Mr. President?
Hey, yeah, Mr. Prince?
And I understand all of that, and but here's my concern, is that at some point, we'll look down the road 10, 12 years from now, and we'll have a really expensive solid waste bill, and there'll probably be some backlash from the taxpayers. And so my concern is, can you spread it out a little longer, or does it have to be every 3 years? I mean, I understand what your advisory committee said, but, you know, at some point, you're going to have taxpayers going, they'll look up and go, why is my garbage bill this high?
Yeah, and I understand that concern, and it really is a policy choice. When we did our last rate proposal, we projected that we would have a $140 fee in 2017. And we didn't do that interim step, so we're at the same place, but we've just gone flat and then steeper versus, you know, going in a stepwise fashion to get to the same place. So it really is a policy choice. But in the end, at least in this case, it ended up at the same level of bill, which is $1.06 on top of a $20 a month bill. So there always is $1.06 on top of a $20 per month bill, and there always is an affordability issue that jurisdictions need to consider in the rate increases.
Mr. President?
Yes, Ms. Prince?
Yeah. Have the residents had any opportunity to provide any comments or any input about this?
We've been doing early outreach to our advisory committees, which include both the cities under interlocal contract with us and a multi-stakeholder advisory committee with representatives from the community, from commercial interests, and others. And had feedback from them. We've been going out to city councils, and to the extent we have an audience, which I don't think we have much today, but folks can hear about it through the city council hearings. And as part of the county council adoption of the rates, it'll be going through a public process through the county council committee process and through the full council.
Have you used social media to announce this at all?
We have not done that, but that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Person?
I just have a couple questions. With the increase of this, you say you're going to improve the fleet of trucks and everything. Are you going to improve the covers on those trucks so that you don't leave all the trash along the road, along the Maple Valley Highway as these big rigs are traveling? That's a real concern to me and my citizens. And the other point is, you're saying that this will only be, if I, and I hope I heard you wrong, but that this could come about $1.16 a month for the individual homeowner. And I understand that we're running out of landfill, we need far more recycling, and I wasn't a recycler until the city started the program, and now I am. I've saved 3/4 of my stuff is now recycled versus into my garbage can, so I really think that's important. But you know, this is another $1.16 a month our taxpayers gonna pay. Then you got Sound Transit. No matter how they spin it, you know, the way they reduce their taxes today, and this is an editorial, is it's $80 for every $10,000 value of car. So they just said, oh, most people don't drive a car that's worth $10,000, it's worth $5,000. So therefore, the tax increase isn't going to be that much. And this is what we're faced with. We're at the user end of all this, and these things really are piling up on our people. And I know you guys don't have, it's not your responsibility, but I just have to, but I am very serious about, as you get new equipment, you got to get better covers, because you go out the Maple Valley Highway and you follow your trucks or the other garbage trucks going out there, and they're spewing stuff out.
Like mesh on the top, right? It's kind of
Yeah,
a
they
mesh.
have something, and you know, they get old and they get deteriorated, and I understand that, or the guy's in a hurry and doesn't do
And-
what they need to do to lock it down.
And certainly, we're looking to get a modern fleet that controls any, controls emissions and controls trash. And coming to the issue of affordability, one thing about utility bills that you can't, whereas with property tax levies, you can't control the value of your house, really. On utility rates, you can control the level of service that you use. So a rate is a charge per unit of service. A bill is what you pay based on the units of service that you use. So I'm not familiar with your rate structure, but in a number of cities, you have options for smaller sized cans that allow you to control the level of rate increase by reducing the service levels that you use.
That just won't work for everyone, though, if you've got a lot of people and you have, we're very diverse cities where we have some intergenerational folks in homes. If you've got a house of 8 people, one can's not going to work for you.
Yeah, that's certainly the case for large households. So going on to, so about $1.35 out of the $1.40 is to sustain our current services. We would like to increase the reliability of some of our services. For example, we have 2 tippers up at the landfill, and those are the pieces of equipment that take the trailers and tip the garbage out into the active face of the landfill. If one of those goes down, the trucks start to back up down the road to the landfill. We'd like to get a 3rd tipper so that we have more reliability there. We have new Clean Water Act stormwater requirements that require more frequent monitoring, and we need to keep up with that. We've got a new flat floor transfer station at Factoria, which puts self-haul customers on the same floor with commercial haulers, and we need 2 more staff to make sure that those folks are operating in the same space safely. Those are the sorts of examples of the reliability increases. And then about $2.17 out of the $1.40 is to implement a transfer station demand management pilot project. This is a way to test whether we can use longer hours at transfer stations, information about queue lines, and peak hour pricing to get more people to move through existing stations faster, or to choose off-peak hours or go to stations that are less busy. So we can get more people through existing stations, perhaps avoiding the need to build a new transfer station in the Northeast. So Just looking more carefully at the components of the increases, you remember the orange wedge that is to sustain our current services. If you go kind of left to right on the bar chart, most of that is for just inflationary increases. The next largest chunk is for debt service on facilities that have already been approved. Then our equipment replacement, our landfill reserves, and then the components for service reliability and demand management. Okay. Okay, so what do we get as a result of this? We think that the services set in motion through this rate will recycle an additional 42,000 tons per year at our transfer stations. It's going to meet disposal needs for our unincorporated areas and our partner cities and make sure that we continue to be in compliance with the federal landfill reserve requirements. We get more reliability of equipment at the landfill and make sure that our fleet is on the road more reliably. We have more recycling services and new transfer station designs that really help customers move through the stations better. And we hope to modernize customer service through better education, signage at the transfer stations, and software, for example, upgrading our phone system so that when a customer calls in with a question, they get directed more quickly to the people they need to talk to. So is that it?
I have one question. Is there any change to the minimum charge at transfer stations being proposed?
Yes, the minimum charge is keyed off of the per ton charge, so it would be going up by the same percentage
Okay,
that the
just-
per ton
just
charge would go
That
up.
percentage, so,
So it's about 17, the per ton charge is going up about 17%, so the minimum transfer station charge would be going up about the
Okay.
same.
okay, that's probably okay. Yeah, I'm always concerned about, I always think that the charge is pretty high, and so for people that, you know, that live in Renton, that just have an item that's oversized that they need to drop off, I never want them to, you know, be discouraged from taking it where it needs to go to the transfer station. So I think that's probably okay, that amount. But so, yeah, Ruth, did you have something?
When is the public hearing? Is the public hearing going to be announced for King County so public will know?
Yeah. The county council will schedule the hearings once it's transmitted from the executive to the council. So it'll be publicized through the standard, you know, on the website, through all the standard methods that the county publicizes its public hearings. I would expect them to happen maybe in late July, maybe in later August and into September.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Prince?
will you please repeat what you said about the Northeast Transfer Station?
The 2006 transfer plan calls for a northeast transfer station to be built. But as we evaluated that, there was concern about do we really need to spend this money if our existing stations could accommodate the expected growth without having to build something new? We've got policy that's been long established that say we've got a number of tools that we should be using to help manage our system, and one of those tools is demand management, which is basically how can we get more people through the station quickly and without having to wait too long. And so we're going to be testing that. We did a study to see if we might be able to manage demand in the Northeast area just using demand management strategies. And the study, the models in the study said, yeah, it looks like you might be able to do that. But, you know, what the computer models say versus what actual customer behavior and real live testing might tell you could be really different. So we want to do a demand management pilot project in this rate period to see if what the model said could be accomplished through demand management is what can really be accomplished through
Okay.
demand management.
And I ask because I know that regionally a couple of cities in the Northeast have been actively opposed to having a transfer station in their cities. And so I was wondering if this was a workaround for that.
Both options, the Northeast Station is still on the books as a policy option for the future. This rate period has no dollars for that station, however, because we're going to look at demand management and whether that can avoid the need for a new station before we move forward on any new station.
And then what's going to happen to the station here in Renton?
The transfer plan says that when replacement capacity is available, the Renton station would close. And what you would likely say is, you know, the new South County station would be the replacement capacity, and that's in the works.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Pavone?
So demand management, what is the hard costs in that? Because there's, it seems like quite a bit of the budget goes to that. So what are the
Yeah.
actual hard costs
Yeah, and the
associated with that?
the county hasn't chosen a scope for that demand management pilot.
How do they put a dollar figure there?
Okay, I'm going to explain that. The scope that we proposed through our study was focusing on the northeast area where the Houghton, Factoria, and Shoreline stations would be affected. Our municipal solid waste management advisory committee, the committee with our city partners on it, was very interested in the scope of the demand management pilot. So interested that they created a subcommittee to give us advice on the scope of the pilot project. The outcome of that committee's advice was that for regional equity purposes, they wanted us to conduct the pilot project at all urban stations. So we haven't decided one way or another whether to go with the less expensive Northeast area station or follow the subcommittee's advice and go for the all urban stations option. The decision doesn't need to be made for some time down the road because we need to have the Factoria station fully operational before we can start the pilot project, and that won't be till the end of 2017. So we still have a little bit of time, but because there is a mismatch in time and we want to respect the city input, we've included in the rate the higher cost MISWAC Advisory Committee scope of work. Leaving for the future the decision about, you know, exactly where do we settle on the number of stations involved.
I still don't know where the money's spent.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's $4.3 million.
And spent on
It's
a study?
It's actually running a test. It's changing the hours, changing giving queue cameras and signage on the site, and taking trucks from the transfer stations in later hours than we normally would. So most of the costs, if we were to conduct that pilot at all urban stations, we need 23 new temporary staff because now we're having extended hours at 5 different stations. We've got, utility costs for those longer hours. We are taking more loads over this longer operating period from each station up to the landfill. We've got utility costs. We've got equipment maintenance costs, that if you're running the equipment more hours per day, the maintenance, it needs to be done more frequently. So all of that feeds into the $4.3 million cost of the pilot project and the rate.
Randy?
Yeah. That's first.
So if you do this $3 million demand study, I guess my question is the garbage getting moved to the transfer stations out to the dump now? I mean, if my garbage truck comes, picks it up, takes it to the transfer station, into your truck, and it goes there, it's getting there right now. You're not leaving garbage behind in the transfer station.
That's correct. It's all an effort, instead of having all of that collection concentrated during certain hours of the day, it's all designed on, can we spread out the hours of the day that is collected so that we can accommodate more people If you've got more hours, the number of people per hour can be less, and so you can,
Well, it just seems to me you're spending $3 million to
4.3.
move the same amount of
4.3.
garbage
4.3.
yeah, 4
that
point,
you do right now but over a length of period. And if you're running your trucks later at night, you're gonna be running them through some residential areas, which isn't gonna make a lot of people happy.
definitely traffic, all of these things are things that our advisory committees have brought up. Are we shifting traffic into the peak commuter hours and making congestion on some roads worse? All of that would be part of the measurement done during the study to see, how many people are coming through the stations, how long does it take to get them through the stations, does it affect our recycling rates? Are intersections near the stations getting more congested? All of those would be part of the study design.
I'll shut up because we got another thing.
Sorry. Yeah, so I see you've got a chart up that tells council and others where they can contact you for more information. I might be follow-up questions. Any final comments by the council on this presentation? Okay, well, thank you for coming and sharing this message. It is broadcast, so so even though there's not that many people here in the building with us, a lot of people are probably seeing it.
Great.
Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and we'll move on to the second item on our agenda, which is a demonstration of electronic court records. We will be, council will be proceeding to the third floor courtroom for a demonstration. We will actually be adjourning directly from there, so that'll end our meeting when we're done down there, and then we'll come back together at 7 o'clock up here for the council meeting. So thank you.